Welcome back. In this session, we will learn about the opportunities of a circular economy for the different economic sectors. At the end of the session, you should be familiar with economic sectors and know the potential opportunities for each of them. Our economic activities can be distinguished in 5 characteristic sectors. The primary sector comprises all activities that are related to extraction, processing or production and packaging of raw materials and food. Examples for the primary sectors are agriculture, mining, fishing, or forestry. The secondary sector is made up of activities related to manufacturing, processing, production, and construction of goods. It generally takes the outputs of the primary sector and produces mostly finished usable products. Examples of the secondary sectors are construction industry, car manufacturing, textile production, and others. The third sector, or tertiary sector, is the so-called service sector. This sector produces services, or intangible good, instead of end products and serves other businesses and consumers. Examples are logistics, healthcare, retail sector, and restaurants amongst others. The fourth sector, or quaternary sector, can be seen as part of the tertiary sector. It is focused on intellectual services and information generation, sharing and processing. Examples of this sector are research and development, computing and ICT, scientific research, consulting, media, entertainment, and more. The last sector is the quinary, or fifth sector. This sector is focused on human services and control. It can also be seen as a subdivision of the tertiary sector, with high-level economic and social decision-making power. Examples are CEOs in the private sector, government officials or policy makers, but also charities amongst others. In the following sections, we will only look into the 3 main economic sectors: primary, secondary and tertiary. The quaternary and quinary sectors mostly being additional subsectors of the tertiary. For simplification, we will thus combine them to the tertiary sector only. Before diving into the opportunities that could arise for each sector by transitioning to a circular economy, let's first see the worldwide situation through the contribution of each sector to the GDP of each country. For the primary sector, we can clearly see that in low and middle income countries, such as sub-Saharan Africa, the primary sector is the major contributor to the GDP. In high-income countries, the contribution is less than 10%. The situation looks different for the secondary sector. Here it is more evenly distributed, meaning that the secondary sector is more developed and contributing between 10 to 50% to the GDP of most countries. The contribution of the tertiary sector to the national GDP varies strongly. Low and middle income countries have the least developed tertiary sector, which contributes to less than 50%. In high-income countries, the tertiary sector makes up the highest contribution, with in some cases over 80%. Now that we have a good understanding of the various sectors and the situation worldwide, let's dive into the opportunities that a circular economy could offer the various sectors. The primary sector makes up a significant proportion of the GDP in lower and middle-income countries, as we have seen it. Agriculture is an important and large portion of this sector, producing food for the society. You might remember that we have already seen in a previous session the environmental benefits of a circular agricultural economy. But let's summarize them again. A switch to regenerative agriculture using organic fertilizer can boost soil health and reduce the amount of artificial fertilizers and pesticides needed. The advantages for the agriculture sectors when switching to a circular economy are, amongst others, an increased resilience through higher diversity of crops and healthier soils, as well as less dependency on artificial fertilizers and pesticides, while achieving same or increased outputs. A study by the Ellen MacArthur Foundation has shown that a shift towards a circular economy in India could reduce the use of synthetic fertilizer and pesticides by 71%, while saving close to 50% water and generating an annual benefit of $61 billion in 2050. But there are also opportunities for the forestry industry. Fibers from wood can be used as raw material for products to replace current ones made of plastic, thus tackling the plastic waste and microplastics problem upfront. The program for the endorsement of forest certification goes even a step further, and held an exhibition called Forests and the Circular Economy, a Future Without Plastics. Additionally, wood-based products can be recycled, and it is up to 80% likely that it is used for new products. And its waste can be used to produce bioenergy, while being a renewable raw material. We have seen that the shift to a circular economy shall disconnect our societal growth from raw materials extraction, and rather focus on reusing what we have extracted, promoting the growth within. Recent figures indicate that already 40% of steel is made from scrap metal, and that one would need only 41 mobile phones to extract as much gold as from 1 tons of ore. In this context, the mining industry is under threat as the demand of raw materials might decrease with increasing circularity. However, at the same time, there is also an opportunity for the mining industry to become the leader in the transition to a circular raw material economy. The global mining sector produces about 50 times more waste annually, with 100 billion tons, versus global municipal solid waste combined, reaching only about 1.8 billion tons. Dealing with its waste in a circular way can unleash an opportunity of $4.5 trillion. This shows the high economic potential for the mining sector within the primary sector. Also, working together with downstream industries of the secondary sector, and actively co-creating recycling and reuse processes and technologies, can create strong new business models for the mining sector in a circular future. The secondary sector, known as the manufacturing sector, is the strongest GDP contributor in most countries around the world. The production of usable goods from raw materials is accomplished by ever more expanding and more complicated value chains across the globe. However, these value chains are often inefficient with, for example, products that are not possible to repair or maintain, or not being recycled at the end of life, as highlighted in the published Circular Economy Playbook for Finnish SMEs. The idea of creating a circular economy in the value chains in the manufacturing is turning losses and inefficiencies into opportunities. Therefore, opening opportunities for various new business models and innovations. Examples are, amongst others, changes in the design stage that create products which last longer. Cooperating with suppliers to create a circular supply chain for materials for manufacturing. Or recycling and upcycling products at the end of life to be used in the sourcing step again. And so on. Implementing such circular business models and changes to the supply chain bends the linear model into a circular one as shown here. A study by the Ellen MacArthur Foundation about the circular economy in India has shown that a shift towards a circular economy in the mobility and vehicle manufacturing sector could result in a 82% reduction in virgin material usage by 2050. Costs for mobility would also decrease by half in the same time duration. Interventions in the circular scenario proposed, compared to the current scenario, are, for example, the use of mostly electrical vehicles, manufacturers implementing new business models to design long-lasting, upgradable, and efficient vehicles, and co-creation with the repair and recycling industries, leading to easier remanufacturing and recycling of cars. The circular economy scenario could generate a $482 billion annual benefit for the mobility and vehicle manufacturing sector in India. The tertiary sector, or service sector, is most commonly known by travel and tourism. 1 in 10 people globally work in tourism, and in 2019, global tourism and travel-related activities contributed about 10.4% to the global GDP. The tourism value chain is comprised of several characteristic steps. From the pre-travel value chain, such as booking and travel agents, transportation to the destination and accommodation at the location, to food supply and finally, further place-based activities. Each value block is embedded in other economic sectors, such as the public and private transport sector, or construction sector for accommodation, food supply chain, and others. The tourism industry has therefore the potential to engage in each value block with other actors, to co-create a circular tourism industry. It could be achieved by, for example, focusing on sustainable transport, having an efficient food supply chain with food loss and food waste reduction initiatives, and using sustainable energy for accommodation, and so on. The scale of the pre-pandemic tourist industry led already to various environmental impacts. Its activities were mostly centered around depleting rather than regenerating natural capital. There is currently a shift in the tourism industry to create a circular approach through initiatives as mentioned above. A recent study investigates the impact of introducing a circular economy in travel and tourism, especially in the post-pandemic development beyond 2020. A shift towards a circular approach by early adopters in the industry could lead several benefits such as lower capital costs for new assets, lower operational costs by increasing resource efficiency and optimizing waste streams, and increase resilience through a more locally embedded supply chain. Additionally, travelers and customers are more environmentally sensitized and are appreciating a sustainable tourism value chain. These customers can strengthen the position of early adopters of a circular approach in the industry. Another important area in the service sector is research and development. It can be a key driver for new technologies that help closing loops to reach a circular economy. This overview from the handbook, Circular Economy Business Models for the Manufacturing Industry, gives an overview of various technologies and stage of development, from emerging to scale up. It also shows the impact on the value chain in the manufacturing industry, such as recycling and recovery, product life extension, or circular supply chain. Emerging technologies, still in the research and development phase, such as nanotechnology, can play a key role in improving life expectancy of various products, or the use of bio-based materials can improve the circularity of the supply chain. Technologies in the scale-up phase such as 3D printing can enable a more circular supply chain and affecting the product life expectancy with more precision manufacturing. This overview shows that new research and development enhancements from the service sector in the various stages can impact the secondary sector to improve circularity. It also highlights the importance that a co-creation between services and manufacturing industry is needed to achieve aim of a circular value chain. But it is also important that the resilience of the primary sector, a still very large income source in low and middle income countries, can be increased with a circular and regenerative approach. Let's summarize our learnings from this session. We have learned about the 5 different economic sectors, their definition and current situation worldwide through GDP contribution. Then, we looked into opportunities for each sector when switching to a circular economy approach. We finally saw that different factors could simplify this transition, such as improving research and development, implementing co-creation between services and manufacturing industries, and applying a regenerative approach to the primary sector. Overall, all sectors complement each other. Gathering their respective strengths will allow a very fast transition to a circular economy. Thank you for listening. See you in the next session.